Hey guys, we're the aviation dudes from Aviation Zone. Welcome to the first episode in this aviation history series. This series will outline aviation history throughout the years, and in the first video, we'll be covering airplanes before World War I.
So let's start off with the Wright Flyer 1903, what many consider the first real powered flight. On its first flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, it flew 12 seconds and a distance of over 120 feet. By the time they reached the fourth flight, they flew 59 seconds and over a distance of 852 feet. So some claim that the first flight was actually flown by Alberto Santos Dumont, and his airplane, the 14 bis box kite, flew 722 feet, although it was flown in 1906, so in my opinion the Wright Flyer is really the first flight. And 722 feet, the Wright Flyer flew 852 on its maximum flight, so it is very debatable. Now these airplanes are nothing like the airplanes we see today. They were built out of wood and fabric, so they were very weak and light, and their engines provided barely about 40 horsepower, which is much less than even a weak motorcycle today. And the thing about these planes is, some of the flight surfaces were different as well. Although they did have a rudder, they didn't use ailerons like most airplanes today do. Instead, they used a technique called wing warping. So before we can understand wing warping, we need to go through a few basics of aviation. So in order to understand the basics of aviation, we're going to use this glider as a model. So starting off with the wing, as you can see there's a curvature on the wing. So what happens is air moves faster on the top and slower on the bottom. So this causes lift, and that's what causes the plane to go up. And moving to the side of the wing, this is what we're talking about when it comes to wing warping. Planes today use ailerons, so that's basically a flat slit in the wing like this. So if you have that in the wing, then you're going to create drag on this side. Drag is basically when air is stopped or slowed down in some way. So as the air is coming into the wing, it's going to get slowed down by that. And if one side gets slowed down and the other side's still going fast, the plane will roll. So that's how planes today roll. So now let's look at wing warping. Glider and do a simple demonstration. So as you can see on this wing, it's angled downward, so you're going to have more lift. So as the air comes in, it's going to go over here. It's going to take much longer than it would on the bottom. So that's going to cause more lift on this wing. And then on the other wing, you have it angled upward. So you're going to have less lift. You're actually going to create downforce. So what's going to happen is this wing's going to go up, and the other wing's going to go down. So using this concept, early aviators could roll their airplanes. So now I'm going to throw this glider and watch as it slightly rolls to the right. Planes like this one, called the Farman biplane, were good racing aircraft. They had far more power than the Wright Flyer, and they could stay in the air for much longer. As new inventors started to make airplanes, airplane racing became popular, and new engines with far more power than the Wright Flyer were fitted to airplanes. Now, with many inventors making their own airplanes, things started to get competitive. People started to make planes to race, and soon airplane racing became a big thing. There was also a different type of competition, which planes could reach the highest altitude. The type of competition that arose was to try and get planes to the highest altitude possible. As airplane racing became more competitive, one engineer decided to use a monoplane design. This decreased the overall drag on the plane, but also decreased the lift. In the end, he managed to increase the speed of his airplane, and his first airplane, the Bellerotte X1, was the fastest airplane to that day. Between the two wings, instead only using one wing, the Bellerotte achieved less drag and more speed. Bellerotte went on to make another airplane, the Bellerotte X3. So that concludes the aviation history segment for pre-World War I. Stay tuned for the next video on World War I aviation history.